Wait. I can hear you. I know what you're saying. What has going to the beach on a rainy day got to do with making like old school death metal artwork? Well, listen, just keep watching and you're gonna find out soon. Let's go. What's the crack? Kieran here for another Spearhead tutorial. So yeah, this time I got a few requests over on Instagram. I was kind of like dropping a few lines to see what people wanted to find out how to do, and one that kept coming up was the old school kind of like OSDM demo artwork that I do quite a lot of, you know, that's like big gnarly looking like Dark Souls style looking boss skeleton lads, you know, like ripping things apart and all. So I figured I'll whip up a tutorial like this and hopefully impart some knowledge on people. But I also had an idea. There's this really cool place down the road from me where I live, and it's down on the beach. It used to be like an old dump, and it's really like kind of nasty. And I figured I'd go out there and I'd use some of my photographs from down there to build up this artwork. So let's get right down to the beach. Yeah, there's this really cool place down the road from me. It's it used to be an old like dump and like a rubbish tip, and it's now fallen into the sea. And believe it or not, this place was actually in the running to be a location for a Mad Max movie that never got made, and I think it was the local government here were trying to charge too much money. Kind of sounds like what they usually do. So yeah, it's a shame, but there's so much cool stuff down here that I figured I'd go down with my brother on and we'd take some pictures to then use in the artwork. So we're not using like crazy expensive gear. Like Owen's using like a Canon 1300D, I'm using a Canon M50. We brought like a GoPro, it's just a Hero 7 Silver down, and we're filming the video footage on Google Pixel 5. So like we're not exactly using like stuff that's gonna break the bank. This is just gear that I use in my day-to-day work. So what we were doing is we were looking for places that kind of looked like kind of wastelandy. Like lots of barbed wire, kind of like crumbling cliffs, you know, like really stuff that like wouldn't look like out of place, as I said, in a Mad Max movie or like a Warhammer fantasy setting, you know. So we have these like terrifying looking cliffs that are like melting and falling into the sea. Like every week we go down here, some more has been reclaimed by the sea, and there's loads of like, you know, landfills and like horrible stuff kind of been washed out and been exposed in the cliff face. And I want pictures of these to then use as like the setting for like the gnarly skeleton lad that I want to make. But yeah, so all we did was we wandered around kind of in the same kind of spot, and I got Owen taking pictures and I was taking pictures of this, you know, the rubber falling in, or like exposed pipes, bits of fencing, as I said, barbed wire, that like gnarly platform thing there. Don't forget to clean your Jordans, man. When you're going around getting covered in muck down at a swampy beach, you gotta keep them crepes fresh. We also were looking for like nice textures, you know, like where the clay in the cliff face has been like drying in the sun and cracking, and then other bits are just like sludgy kind of oozy slime that we might use as well to have the skeleton bursting out of like from behind the cliff. And we basically want these cliffs to like frame the artwork, and it's perfect. Like we have no shortage of good pictures here to use. And as usual, I'm going to put a link in the description with a Google Drive folder with all of these textures and stuff, like, so you can use the photographs that we took in your artwork if you want. Be sure to like and subscribe though, you know, for these free assets. I'm always here to help. And you know, after a bit of hard work, or not so hard work in this case, you always have to treat yourself, you know. You gotta keep that head in the right direction. So we brought in a few beers and we decided, yeah, we toast one. I think Owen's enjoying that. Get it into you, Cynthia. Right, so we're over here in the computer now, and I am just going to make an artboard. It's going to be 4000 pixels by 4000 pixels at 300 dpi. It's kind of my go-to. And what I'm doing is I'm going into my photographs here and I'm taking all the ones I've actually selected, probably about 20 out of a couple of hundred, you know what I mean. So I've selected about 20 that I like the look of, and I've basically gone in with my magic wand tool and just like taken the sky out and started overlaying them in, and I'm like putting them on top of each other, trying to create this sort of like perspective effect of like looking down this like weird kind of, as I said earlier, like a Warhammer style wasteland, you know, that you'd see orcs scuttling about in or something, you know, like really nasty and fancy. So to do this, I'm just kind of like placing them on top of each other, using my magic wand tool, as I said, to get rid of the sky, and then going in with my perspective and skew, and just kind of, you know, twisting and kind of nudging things so they look kind of right. Like, you could use a perspective grid for this, but in this case I just went by eye, because I think a lot of these like old school death metal demo covers, the black and white ones, like might not really have had too much time put into like your grid perspective. So like doing it by eye, and it kind of gives it that more kind of like traditional kind of look. And then like once I'm kind of happy with like my weird nasty kind of wasteland setting, as I said, I want like this big Dark Souls boss like skeleton lad like bursting out and going 90 with like weapons and all. So I've basically just gone in and I'm chopping up different PNGs that I've gotten off I was trying out this site Envato Elements. I'm gonna like link that down in the description. There's some cool stuff. It's very expensive, very expensive. I think it's a bit too expensive, but I don't know, if you're into that, you can check it out, see if you can find some cool stuff on there. But anyway, I'm going in and I'm using like different weapons and different like skeleton hand poses and like the skeleton itself, and I'm kind of loosely just like fleshing these out. I decided I put like a big like dripping heart in it, so I got a ventricle heart there, and then give it some wings as well, because I really want, as I said, we want to play on the fantasy side of this. It's like old school death metal art. It's going to be kind of like a bit mental looking, you know. So again, little tricks just to be using here. Like, you want to keep on top of your layers and know where your layers are. Like in this case, I was just kind of like bursting through it on my laptop while my dad was watching rugby. I was up at my parents' house a couple of weekends ago, and so yeah, I was doing this with a trackpad, which isn't ideal, like, you know, but it shows it can be done. So once I was kind of happy with my skeleton pose, like I just kind of nudged and kind of twisted things again with like skew and warp, and then started overlaying my different like photographs that I thought were interesting in terms of texture. Like obviously we used our like cracks texture there, but then I go in and I'm starting to throw in like the twisted fences and pipes and all, and bits of rocks that are like rubble and all that was hanging out of the cliffs, and that really just textures up and makes the whole composition a lot busier. And then just to kind of like set off the foreground, I had a nice photograph of barbed wire that I took as well, and I went in and just like whacked that in on my top layer, so it's above everything else. Again, the flames and stuff are just PNGs, and I just figured, you know, that kind of might make it a little bit kind of cooler. Obviously there was no fire or skeletons bursting out of the ground down on the beach, so we couldn't get photos of them, but yeah, you just make do with like PNGs as you find them. So now that I'm happy with my like overall kind of composition here, I'm going in and I'm kind of refining edge on different ones of my layers, my background layers and stuff, and I'm going individually in and making them all black and white. This is after saving our coloured multi-layered PSD. So once I'm making them all black and white, but I'm also by eye playing with my levels, you know, sometimes bringing them down so they're a bit darker, or sometimes bringing them up and making them a bit brighter. You'll kind of know, like it's a lot easier to see like in a grayscaled image, like what pops and what doesn't. You know, sometimes when there's a lot of colour you can't see where something is getting lost, you know. But when you grayscale, sometimes you can put an adjustment layer and just make a grayscale layer over your coloured PSD, and you can, without destructively editing, you can see so much clearer what's going on. So as I said, just playing with my brightness and contrast, bringing the skeleton out here because it was kind of getting lost, and then I was also kind of bringing up the detail and the contrast in my cliffs. Then I threw like a really quick vignette on it. Here I'm just using like the blood drips that I used for my Shadowcraft logo tutorial, and I'm throwing them all over a skeleton here. I've merged my skeleton layers onto one, and I'm pressing Control and clicking on the image of the thumbnail of the layer to select that whole image, and then clicking on my blood drips layer and selecting inverse and deleting everything, so it's just the drips on the skeleton. We want him to look really like dirty and filthy and all, because he's bursting out of feckin' hell or whatever, like bursting out of the ground, you know. So then I just used my Spearhead Textures as usual. You know, these are my old faithfuls, the grit textures. You know, it's again, I'm just throwing black and white textures on top of everything, to give it like a really kind of like printed nasty sort of look. And you can see it's already getting like filthy, like old school death metal. And here I'm putting in drips and drawing in some kind of teeth and stuff. Like, I'm doing this with the trackpad, so it's not like ideal obviously, but a good thing to do once you've like drawn like your details on top of, or once you're happy with your photo bash layers, you can just like throw them on the bottom, make new layers that you want to start drawing on top of. And a nice thing I do, like sometimes drawing over these things, when you're drawing like bits of white on top of your photo bashed artwork, you can then select your white layer, like in this case the drips and the teeth, and put an inner shadow, like a really soft inner shadow, and play with your values, and it'll just really give it like a three-dimensional look straight away. So now I've again like merged my skeleton layer and duplicated it, taken the bottom layer and selected that whole layer and filled it white. I had a comment recently asking like how do I fill things with a colour so quickly. If you just select your layer, select what you want to be filled, you press shift and F5 and you'll get a little pop-up there, and it'll tell you like what, it'll be like, oh, do you want to fill black, white, colour, whatever, go for it. In this case just white, and then I nudged my white layer a little bit to the left. I made another one which was a black layer and nudged that a little bit to the right, so that's giving it like the impression that you have light hitting one side of the skeleton, and it just gives it an even more three-dimensional feeling. As you can see, like I'm just drawing different details over the top, like kind of scribbling in darker shadows and drawing in like white highlights. You know, that again is just I really want this to look like mental, like old school nasty kind of death metal. So once I was kind of happy with that, then I merged all those layers, and I just played with my like warp and kind of like twisted it around till it just looks a bit better by eye. And then like you can go in and put like a Xerox effect in it, like if you want, I'll put the link up there so you can check that video out. So yeah, in this case I just put some monochromatic noise on it and just fired the contrast up, because we want this to look like it's in, like as we said, an inlay from like old school death metal, like demo tape, something maybe from like, you know, Tampa Bay 93, you know, that kind of like real nasty looking cool stuff. So after I've just like played with the noise and whacked the contrast up, I go in and get like my Xerox like texture paper and throw that over on a layer on top, and then use screen to just like bring out the brightness. I'll just kind of twist the layer around so you're adding like more texture on top, and just kind of really giving it that scratchy, like authentic sort of feel. And yeah, you can see here like it's really like, it automatically looks like it's aged. It could be from 93, you know, like it looks like it was done long ago. So yeah, I'm happy with that, and as I said, it was just like a quick run through on how to photo bash some nasty fantasy landscape and evil kind of bad guys from Dark Souls into like some cool like old school death metal art. And I think it's a really fun and satisfying process, you know, especially when you use your own photos, because like I wouldn't have gotten like that like cool kind of wasteland looking place if I hadn't have gone out and taken those photos. And again, check the link in the description if you want to use those photos yourself. You're more than welcome. I put them in there, and anybody can use them for whatever you want, license free, for personal use and commercial use. So yeah, I really hope this helped. As you can see here, I mocked up the tape just using some of my assets from my previous asset making tutorial, and as I said, I'm gonna sell those soon once I get a new website up and running. I'm a little bit snowed under at the moment with different commission work and extracurricular work and making videos and my gaming channel with my mate Carl, and I'm busy, and that's good, you know. Some people don't like being busy, but I actually go mad if I'm not busy. So yeah, as usual, if you like what I'm doing, give me a like, I'll just subscribe. I really appreciate it. Shoot down in the comments if you have any questions, you know I'll get back to you. And I hope everybody's happy and healthy, and I hope you're looking forward to the next one. I've almost got it finished, so I'm looking forward to uploading that soon. So yep, take care, best of luck, and let me know how you get on.